Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Learn Smart Coding. This is Karthik. Thanks for joining with me today. So in this video what I'm going to cover is how to add the authentication and authorization part in your Angular application. The concept that I'm going to use is very popular one and very secured one, which is Azure Active Directory Business to Consumer. In short form we will call it as Azure AD B2C. So we will go through the Azure AD B2C concepts, and we will also see how to do the app registration and configure these things in your web API and the Angular application. So this is the app which is already built and deployed. Currently this app doesn't have the authorization. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this application and the previously published the web API application, and I'm going to show you how to configure these two things here as well as in the Azure portal, and 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 also I'll show you how this application is going to work. Okay, so come, let's get started. So in this demo what I'm going to show you is I'm going to open up this application locally. So by opening the localhost 4200 port. So once I load this application, you see this, you saw some the front end screen, the home screen, but the app realized that I have not authenticated yet. So it is asking me, or it is prompting me to sign in. Okay, because I am a new user and I haven't registered anything with this application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on sign up now, and this will bring me a nice UI. Okay, the UI that you're seeing right now is all built-in UI built by the Azure team. Okay, you can actually customize this. We will see all those things, how to customize, bring up your own screen, bring up other different nice screens and all. But let's stay with the topic. Let's see how the inbuilt things works. Okay, so here what it is asking me is it is asking me to provide some email address and password and display name, country. That's it. You see this, all these drop the boxes here, all these things also are configurable. Okay, I'll show you how to add more properties here and collect information from the user. For now let's focus only on the particular properties. So let's fill up quickly. So I filled up my valid email address. Okay, so I'm going to fill up some password. Display name is Karthik Kannan, and then country, I'm gonna choose the country that I'm currently residing, and given name is again just Karthik. We'll keep it in that way. And if I try to create now, see, it is asking me I haven't done everything, right? So you have to click on the send verification code and you need to verify this email address. Okay, that's why I gave a valid email address. So I clicked on the send verification code. Now the code has been sent. I need to fill up the verification code here. Okay, so I opened up my email address and you see this, I received an email from Microsoft. Okay, so learn smart coding account email verification, and it is coming from Microsoft website itself. So this is the code that I need to pass. So let's paste this code. Let's verify this. See, the email address is verified. Now let's click on create. See, the account got created, the app started loading, and you can see here it's coming as edit profile and sign out profile. Okay, there is no more login and it's loading. So now the authentication is successful. I'm able to load the page. Okay, so let's open up the developer tool and quickly see what's going on. So let me navigate to a different page. You see this couple of calls are going to the API. So let's click one of those, and you can see clearly under the authorization header we are sending a bearer token, and this token is called JSON web token, JWT token. Okay, so let's see what is inside this token. I copied this token and then go to jwt.io, or you can also go to jwt.ms. So if you copy paste the token here, it is going to decrypt here, and if you see what is decrypted here, it's basically a JSON with couple of properties and values. Here if you can notice, whatever we gave in the registration, right, the name, the country, given name, email address, all these things are recorded here. Okay, so these are called claims. Okay, these are called claims. Claims is nothing but a key value pair which will identify what user and what is the user information. And the second thing that you need to notice is the scope. SCP is scope, and right now there are 4 scopes from the application which is going on, which is category and the product read and write. Okay, so we will go through all these things when we look at the Angular application. Okay, so what else I can do? I can click on this and click on edit profile. So when I click on edit profile, the the user information that we collected. Not everything needs to be edited. We can configure this in such a way that what is allowed to edit. So right now I'm allowing only the display name. So instead of Karthik Anand, I would say just Karthik. Okay. So I can continue and I'll show you how different things will work with different configuration. See, I was able to edit my profile. Okay. And if you see the token, it will be different now and the changes will happen. So for example, so let's pick up a different token now. So let's go here. Let's grab this new token that is going on. Copy. Let's go here. Paste it. And the given name, the display name is changed now. Okay. So the display name is just Karthik instead of Karthik Anand. So the previous claim had this too. Karthik Anand, right? So right now the current claim, if I paste, only one is coming because it changed. Alright. So let's say I sign out and I try to log in. It will try to bring me the login screen and I really forgot my password. Actually, I can click on this forgot password and I can change my password. So the Azure AD B2C will expect the user to be logged in. If the user has not logged in, for security purpose, it will ask me to provide the email address and verify this code. So then I can change the password. Great. So now you know how the application works. So now it's time to learn one by one. Let's learn the concept and then Azure configuration and then how to configure the application and start this process. So now it's time to understand what is Azure AD B2C. Okay. So this is part 1 and I'm going to go through Azure AD B2C concepts. Okay. So what is Azure AD B2C? AD stands for Active Directory, so sometimes we will abbreviate this as AD going forward, and B2C, business to consumers. In the cloud world, be it AWS, Azure, Google, or name it, any cloud provider, you will mostly hear something called as a service, like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, all these things, right? So basically, infrastructure as a service means when the cloud provider provides the basic building blocks like storage, virtual machine, then we will call it as infrastructure as a service. And you will also call it as platform as a service when the cloud provider abstracts the infrastructure and you build apps on a pre-configured platform. Similarly, Azure AD B2C follows on the same pattern. It's an identity as a service, meaning Azure will host all the necessary components for you to build application that allows user to sign up and log in. Okay, so let's understand that. But you don't need to worry about these things. Whatever happens behind the scene, it's Azure responsibility, Microsoft responsibility, okay, or the cloud provider responsibility. We will focus only on the consumer application. So when you hear the term Active Directory, you normally think sometime like, okay, Active Directory means it's enterprise applications. Only for the people who work for a company can log in. Azure AD B2C allows you to build apps for consumers. It's still an Active Directory user storage where your application can access attributes like name, address, phone number, street address, and so on, but it's aimed at the consumer application. So unlike the enterprise application where you know who are the users for your application, in this case, we will not know who will be our user. Okay, so if you consider my app, we don't know who's going to log in. It could be any person in the world can log in, right? So Azure AD B2C lets users sign in to your application with either a username or password that they create and that is stored as a local account, or they can actually sign in with the social accounts like Twitter, Google, Facebook, and so many other famous social networks. Okay, so B2C also allows you provide the custom branding. So the login experience that you saw right now was the inbuilt branding. You can actually customize that. So Azure AD B2C is developed in industrial standard wise such as OpenID, OAuth, and SAML. Okay, so they could create a regular username password or they could use their Google login if you allow it, like you have to configure it. So we will also see that in our complete course. Regardless of which way the user decides to log in to your application, behind the scene, they will all have the same type of account, and the backing Azure Active Directory is nothing but the user store. This provides the ultimate flexibility for you as well as for the users. Giving you even more flexibility is that you can actually customize the login experience for your users. Not only you can control the branding that these users can see, but you can also control what attributes they can enter, like the street address, name, display name, given name, surname, blah blah. So many things. You can actually customize all those things. And Azure AD B2C is perfect to be used with web APIs, mobiles, and mobile apps. And what else Azure AD B2C provides? It also provides multi-factor authentication, or also called as MFA, and also integration with other third-party identification proofing companies. So both of these make sure your users have their accounts secured. So there's a strong logging and auditing available in B2C. You can see who's logging in and what is going on, and you can also track down if there's an issue happening for a particular customer, actually you can track down. So those auditing and logging will help us. What is going to work with this Azure AD B2C? So the server-based applications like .NET, PHP, Ruby, or the Node, all these things uses the OpenID Connect for all the user experience with the app initiating the login flow. Single page application works as well because our demo itself is for SPA application, which is Angular. So that will work for that as well. Mobile application works wonderfully with B2C. So these applications initiate a flow and integrate with the OAuth to authorization code flow. And of course, you can secure your web services and API with B2C. So they use OAuth 2 to authenticate the incoming HTTP request using tokens, and it extracts info about the calling user from the claims inside the token. Like we saw how to decrypt the token and see what information is present. So those are the things, right? And there are some applications which will not work with Azure AD B2C. Okay. So any application that is a long running application without a user interface, those don't work with B2C. Okay, it's or a web API chain, one API calling another API, or web service calling another web service. All those things will not work with AD B2C. So with this information, come let's get into the action. In this video, we're going to see how to set up the Azure Active Directory B2C tenant. This is part 2 of the series, and come let's take a look. So on my screen, I have opened the Azure Portal by going to azure.portal.com and click on the create new resource and type in Azure Active Directory B2C. You'll see this opening up. Okay, so this is where you have to create the Azure Active Directory B2C. So click on create. It's going to show you a page. So there are two options, because first time we're going to create the tenant, we have to choose the first one, but second one is to link if you have already have the tenant created. Okay, so let's choose the first one, click on it. It's opening up. So very basic thing, you need to provide the organization name, the domain name, the unique domain name that you wanted to create. Okay, so let's provide an organization name called Learn Smart Coding, and what we will do, let's give a name for the domain. Okay, so it has to be unique. Whatever I'm trying, it's already taken. So let's try something unique name. I'm going to provide Learn Smart Coding B2C demo. So you see this, there's a tick mark. Once you tab out, there's a tick mark. So this domain name has not been taken, so I'm going to take that. And you provide your country or region where you reside. So I'm going to leave this as United States. I'm in United States right now. So subscription, you have to choose whatever subscription you have, and then the resource group, either choose the existing resource group, or you can create a new resource group which will be tied to only to this Active Directory. Okay, so I'm going to provide a new one, LSC Learn Smart Coding -B2CRG. Okay, so I can identify later or delete the complete resource group. So that is why I'm doing this. So just click on OK and then click on review and create. Okay, so it's going to validate something and tell you everything is good. We are good to go, so we can hit on create, and that's going to create the details that is showing on the screen. Alright, so the deployment initiated. It takes a couple of minutes, so let's quickly skip that couple of minutes, and let me show you what happens. So it's created now. I'm going to click on whatever has created, right, the new domain. So let's click on this, and it's going to create a new tab. Okay, so the new tab, let's go to that new tab, and it's going to reload and come back to that place. And here's the one. So this has been now created. Okay, but it's showing in blue color. and this is the one which is the original subscription. So you can also choose the switch directory, and if you come to switch directory from the top profile page, it is going to list down all the Active Directory that you already have. See, if we are doing this for the first time, you will see the previous default one and the new one. Okay, I already created 3 things along with this video, so I'm showing I'm able to see 3 things. Okay, so the first one is the Active Directory B2C demo, which is current, meaning which is selected currently. Okay, and if you see the title bar, it's blue color, right? So let's do some nice theme adjustment to differentiate different directories. So click on this setting which is in the top, and what you can do is, so click on the setting and you see this there's an option called appearance and startup view. I'm going to choose a different view just to differentiate the Active Directory of the one that we just created and the previous one. Okay, so I choose the black color, so whenever you see black color on my screen, that's the new Active Directory. Okay, for the original one, it will show it in the blue color. Okay, so you see this, the original one is in blue color. Okay, fine. So what we have to do is, we have to go to the one that we created, and this is the Active Directory tenant that we created. Okay, and you can always choose to have this Azure AD B2C in the search box, and you will land up here. So once you land here, there are a couple of things that we will quickly go through. See, app registration is something that we will do it in the next video, where we need to register the applications here. Identity providers are something that commonly used: Facebook, Apple, the Google, LinkedIn, so many identity providers that supports this. So we are going to see one by one. By default, it is a local account. Okay, meaning the username and password is created and stored in the store itself, the Microsoft store itself. Okay, and then user attributes, these are the built-in attributes. You see this, these are the built-in attributes. You can actually create your own attribute, name it, give a description, provide a data type. So these are the attributes that will support us to collect information from the users. Okay, now if you click on users, this is the default user that was created when I created the Active Directory account. Okay, you can see the audit logs, you can see the sign-in logs. Like when we complete this complete app, you'll be able to see audits and sign-in logs that users are coming in. Okay, like I said in the previous introduction, you have a lot of good things here. And then the user flow is very important. We will see in the couple of videos from now. So that will help us in showing up sign in, sign up, password reset, and all those pages. So for this clip, we are done, and the next clip will show you how we will create the user flows. This is part 3, creating user flows. Come, let's take a look. So on my screen, if you see, once you go to the directory that you created, you should be watching the previous clips so to understand this flow. So I'm on this directory, and once you go to Azure AD B2C, to the left side under the policy section, there is something called user flows. So click on the user flows and click on new user flow, and you see this there are built-in user flows. So like sign up, sign in, password editing, profile editing, all those flows, right? So these flows are the one that will present to the user on the same page for sign up, sign in, forgot password, or to edit your profile, all those things, right? So you can choose any of the built-in to create the user flows. It is advisable to choose the built-in, not to build from scratch from ourselves. So I clicked on sign up, sign in, and went with the recommended version. It is very easy. You just need to name a flow here. For the sign up, sign in flow, you have to provide a name, and there is a prefix already added, B2C underscore 1 underscore, and then followed by the name that we are going to provide. Okay, so I'm going to provide sign up, sign in. Okay, there is a reason why I'm stressing this. These names are useful and have to be exactly same when we configure it in our application. Now if you see, there is option called email sign up, and there is a identity provider called Google. I've already set up, that's why it's showing up, but when you do, it won't show up. It's going to be the email sign up only. And for a moment, do not activate any MFA here, multi-factor authentication, just leave it in off state. And you see this under the fifth one, there is something called collect attributes and return claims. Collect attributes, whatever you choose here, right, that is what will be presented to the users. We saw it in the demo app, and you can collect these information to the user. and return claims is the these information returned in our JWT token, so that we can access and do some nice information. Okay, so the user flow is created now. Okay, now we will similarly create another two user flows. One is for the profile editing and one is for the password reset. I clicked on profile editing. It's almost same. Let's name it as profile edit. Okay, so I'm going to name it as profile edit, and it is all same. Go with email signing. Do not choose the identity provider because for you it will not show up if you're doing it for the first time. And here this is profile editing, right? Not all the attributes has to be presented for the users to be edited. So if we have collected 10 and if you want only one or two to be allowed to be edited, you can show those things. And if you click on this show more, it will show up all these things. These things you would have picked up in the sign in page also. Okay, so we can pick up whatever we want and whichever is useful for our application. So for now, for this profile editing, I'm going to allow them to edit the given name. That's why I chose only the given name. Okay, or I would choose the display name as well. And let's allow both the things to be edited and click on create. The user flow is created in few seconds. Alright, it is created. Now let's quickly click on this and finish up the password reset as well. Okay, so for the password reset, again we have to give the same name. We have to choose the local account for the reset. Azure will expect user to be logged in or allow us to authenticate ourselves for the email that we wanted to reset, so that it will secure the user's email. So we have created all the three user flows. We will show you how these user flows are useful for our application. So the next one, so this clip is done. The next clip is to register our applications and see how to test the user flows. This video clip is part 4, and we are going to see the app registration. So on my screen, I have opened up the place where I have left, meaning Azure AD B2C for the directory that I have created. And you see this left side under the manage, there is something called app registration. Okay, so click on the new app registration, and it will take you to a page where you have to enter a couple of things. Okay, so the first thing that we will do is we're talking about two applications, right? Our web Angular shopping application and the supported web API. So we are going to do for the web API first. So essential product web API is the name, and there are three options, right? The first two options does not apply for what we are doing. We are talking about consumers, so choose the third one. Okay, so that's the identity provider that supports here, and you see this is the application if you run it from the local. So I'm going to take that URL which runs from the local and provide that as a return URL or the redirect URL, which is mandatory. So choose the web as the framework and then provide the return URL. Okay, so we have done with the return URL. Now this application is ready. Now what we have to do is go to this expose an API and click on add a scope. And you see this under the right side, there is a name and then followed by a GUID. That's the default GUID that gets created or generated. We don't need to have such name because it's not easy to remember. So let's have some meaningful name. So I'm going to provide essential products / API. So if you see this complete URL, it will become a unique, and we know this the scope that we are going to add it for this application, and by the name itself we can find it. So once you do that, this is the place where you need to add the scopes. Scopes are basically kind of the privilege that we give for the users, and then also in the web API methods. Okay, so that will determine which method requires what scope, and if the user is having that scope in their JWT token, then they will be allowed to access. That is what the scope will do. Okay, so we will create categories.read. Basically the scope is to tell that, okay, if you have the scope, you will be allowed to read the APIs, okay, all the get endpoints. That is what the first scope is. Let's create another scope called categories.write. So these two scopes will go for the category controller in our web API, which you already know the APIs are present in GitHub. Okay, so here for the the DML operation, put, post, delete, we will put the categories.write, and then for the other get methods we will say categories.read. So two scopes we have added. We have another controller called products, right? So let's quickly create products.read and products.write. Just name the scope properly and provide some display name and the description. That's for our understanding. Okay, and you may or may not be required to create the scopes for each controller. If couple of controllers together makes for one feature, Of course you can use the same scope, it is not mandatory, but this is for the demo purpose. I'm going to create 4 scopes and put these two into 2 different controllers and show you how this matters for the API. Okay, so we're done with the 4 scopes created properly, all good. Now what we have to do is we can go back and create another application, and this time this application is for our Angular. And Angular is a SPA application. SPA means single page application. Okay, so I'm going to give a meaningful name called Essential Product SPA. Everything is same here. You choose single page application SPA. Okay, so now if you run the application locally, the local host is nothing but runs on the port 4200. So that's why I've provided this 4200. And don't forget to check this grant admin consent on the OpenID. Okay, so once you choose that, application is created, all good. So let's go to this API permission. See, now what we are telling is, we are telling, okay, go to this API permission, click on add a permission and go to my API. So let me first tell you what we are doing. So choose the web API, the one that we created, and then we are choosing all the 4 things. So basically we are providing access to the API scopes that was exposed. Okay, so our Angular application now will have access to these 4 scopes under that web API. So now click on the grant admin consent. This is the full access that we are giving to our SPA application. Once this is done, okay, so those 2 applications are now ready to be configured. And then what we are going to see in the next video is, go to the user flows and execute these user flows and see how this beautiful screen is going to show us. Okay, stay tuned. Thank you. This is part 5 of the series, and we are going to see how to test the user flows that we created. On my screen, I have opened up the user flow that was created. Okay, so you can go to this Azure AD B2C, and under the policies, if you click on user flows, you will see the user flows that you created. Okay, so now what you can do, I clicked on the sign up, sign in, and click on run user flow. And you see this to the right side, it will allow me to choose the reply URL and the application. So application I chose web API, but reply URL is currently showing us localhost 5001, right? So let's do a quick change there so that this content will go to the JWT token website for us to see how it works. Okay, so let's go to this authentication of this Essential Product Web API registration app. And here what you can do is, for this demo, you can just delete this and add this URI as jwt.io or jwt.ms. Okay, so what will happen is, the return claim, the JWT token, will be sent to this website. This website is JSON web token visualization website. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Later we'll come back and change the 5001 port URL here. Okay, now let's go to this user flow quickly and click on run user flow. To the right side, it will allow you to choose the application. Now we will choose the web API and reply URL is jwt.io. Now click on run user flow. See, it presented the inbuilt user flow. Here you need to first sign up, because first time when you come, you would have not have the email address registered with that application, right? So I'm going to provide my original email address, because it will send authentication number to the real email, and you need to provide this verification code. So I copied and provided. It is accepted. It is accepted. Now it's time to provide the password. So I will provide password, and if you see city and given name, these 2 were the one that we configured in sign up, sign in to collect the information. These 2 will be present in our claims as well. The more you increase, the more will show up here. Okay, the more you decrease, it will show up down. See, now it has taken the code here and it has presented into this website. Ideally, the code that you see in the top, if you copy paste that with the bearer token down, it will show up the claims, meaning it will decode this encrypted content and it will show up. Okay, so let's take a look whether it will show up now. Okay, so basically it will actually show up here nicely, but don't worry if it is not showing up. As long as this user flow runs, this itself is a symptoms or a sign that this will work. Okay, so let's quickly test the profile edit as well. Same thing, run user flow, choose the application and the return URL, and if you run, what will happen? Everything is configured. Then So if everything is configured properly, okay, it will allow you to change certain details in the profile editing, but for that you need to first sign in. So I need to first sign in. Okay, if you have already signed in, we will also see that in the demo where you click on edit profile. If you have already signed in, it will directly present on this screen, the one that I'm highlighting now. Here the allowed thing is given name on the display name. That's why it is allowing us two properties here. So again, once you change that, it will take you here. Ideally speaking, the code will come here properly, but don't worry if it is not coming. We will take a look at the JWT token from our application and show you how things works. Okay, the next one is the password reset. Again, as I said, for password reset, you have to be signed in. If you are not signed in, it will ask you your email address to verify that you are the right person that you are asking to change the password. And if you provide the email address properly here, it is going to send you a verification code to this email address. Take that number, grab it, put it here, verify this, and then if you do a continue, okay, after you verify, it will allow you to change the existing password. See, it is verifying it, and now it is allowing me to change the existing password. I can change the password. Okay, so this is all user is doing. Okay, ideally speaking, I will come up with another video where you as a management or as a admin, using the graph API, you can actually reset the user's password and even view a lot of users information for many auditing purpose. Okay, so now we know how to test the user flows. The 3 user flows that we created, we have tested it. The same user flow can be used in different application if this is okay. And like I said, you can change the attributes. If you go inside each user flow, okay, under the properties, you can under the user attributes, you can change it. But in order for your password to work properly, please don't forget to go inside this user sign up, sign in, come down under the password configuration and do a check mark of self-service password reset. Okay, only in the testing it will work, but if you check here properly, when you run it from your Angular application, it will show up properly. That is some mistake that we usually do. And also under the page layout, the minimum version is 2.1.3, but luckily we already have 2.1.7 current set, so we don't need to worry. So all good. So we're done with the testing of the user flows. The next clip will be the final code that you need to provide in your web API and the Angular application, and see the live demo from the application that we already have it in our GitHub. Come, let's do that next. This is part 6 of the video series, and in this video we're going to see how to configure the code in your web API and the Angular SPA single page application for us to show and make it work for our Azure AD B2C authentication and authorization. Okay, now we created earlier a domain name called Learn Smart Coding B2C demo, right? So that is already there. If you see, that's the current one that is present, right? But I also have another one called Just Learn Smart Coding, okay, which will end with .onmicrosoft.com. okay, so I'm going to show you what I did there. It is exactly same, including the name, everything is same, the app registration, everything is same. You see this user flow names are same. Under the app registration, I will have 4 app registrations. First 2 one is for the previous video, and then the last 2 one is the essential product API and the SPA. Meaning I'm showing you the scopes that I showed you, everything is same. The only difference between this and that is the name of the Active Directory. Okay, so let's take this as an example. Like I said, everything is same, there's no change. The permission granted for the APIs, whatever the scopes was exposed, and whatever we configured in the written URL, redirect URL, everything is same. Okay, so having said this, everything is ready. So we have configured the authentication for the API, the SPA, everything is good. Okay, what we are going to do is we're going to open up the first web API application. So whoever doesn't know about this coding is present in GitHub / learn smart coding / essential product API. That's the Git repository. Okay, so I've created a separate branch for this B2C so that whoever doesn't want this, they don't get confused. So you can see my description of this video to find out the exact branch name. Now let's open up this project, and the first thing that you need to do, right, go to the startup class and the coding from 30 to line number 37. Okay, so that's the authentication configuration that we are doing. That, okay, this is the authentication schema, and please take certain configuration from the configuration. And you see this Azure AD B2C, that's the section. And under the section you have instances, our learn smart coding dot on microsoft.com. See, I'll go to the application and I'll show you. Okay, let's click on this application. You see this the application URI. Okay, so that's the URI. If you click on the endpoints, you'll be able to see all the different endpoints for OAuth, OpenID, SAML, and all those things. Okay, so we're going to pick up few informations from this registration that we did. The first one is the Microsoft the learnsmartcoding.b2c login.com. Okay, that's the instance. Client ID is the one that I picked up from the client ID. If you go to the overview, okay, overview of this app registration, you see this, the one that I'm highlighting, application ID, which is also called client ID. Okay, so that's the one that ends with 30. So that's the one that ends with 30. Okay, so I copy pasted under the client ID. You replace your own client ID. Okay, and the callback path is the sign in OIDC, and then the domain is the Active Directory that we were talking about. Okay, in the first part I showed you Learn Smart Coding B2C demo. Here I'm talking about Learn Smart Coding dot on microsoft.com. So this is the Active Directory where we have configured all these things. Okay, so and that is the name that goes here under the domain. And you see the other three things, they are exactly what we created in the user flows. Okay, the name you place it here and the portal should match. Even one spelling mistake will not work, so make sure you copy paste the names properly. You can provide whatever name you want. It's all about placing it in a right place correctly. Okay, so now we're done with that authentication. There are a couple more things, quick things to do in the web API. If you scroll down, you need to add the cross-origin resource sharing access. See, for now I am running this application locally, so I allowed only the in a localhost 4200 application. Whichever is running from that port is allowed to access this web API. You cannot just put a wildcard to say everything can be loaded. That's not acceptable when you add the authentication. So let's say you're deploying this application to the server, right? I have deployed already into the Azure server, right? So in that case, instead of this localhost 4200, you can configure it in a way where it picks up from the environment file, or if you know only one server is there, you can actually provide the server name here. Okay, so if I provide the server name, none of you people can access it. So I'm going to provide the local host so that both applications running from my local host will be able to run and access it. And then the next thing, right, we will create a folder called authorization policies and create a file called scopes requirement. See, scope requirement class is not required, but basically what it is doing is it is checking the incoming request with the JWT token. At least one of these scopes are present in the JWT. Only then it will allow the request. If not, it will reject the request with the 401. Okay, so that's the thing. Sorry, 403 authorization. Authenticator is already done, but authorization is not accepted. And then we will also enable the authentication and authorization in the configure section. Okay, so there are only a couple of things that we did. The scope name should also match. We have categories read write, products read write. Now let's open up this in local and try to execute one of the calls. See, you are getting 200. Okay, ideally you're not supposed to get 200, right? Okay, that's getting because if you go to this category controller right now, there is no attribute called authorize. Okay, so you need to provide an authorize attribute in the controller on top of what we already configured. Only then, so we got the result because we don't have an authorized attribute, so we need to provide an authorized attribute. On top of it, what I'm doing is here you can actually specify required scope. See, I'm going to give you different flavors. Okay, so if I put required scope and add the scope here, which is categories.read, as long as the request has this category.read scope, right, the request will be allowed to enter into this category controller at all the method level. Okay, now let's take a look at a different approach. Go to this product controller. Here on each method, I'm providing what scope is required. Okay, for all the get methods, it has to be a products.read, and for all the write methods, the scopes with products.write should be there. Okay, now we configured. Let's try it out. Let's click on execute. You should ideally get 401. Okay, so we are getting 401, which is correct, but it just says undocumented. Okay, so let's add few more things here to make our Swagger works nicely. So if you see this, right, we already have what kind of response this each method can produce. So we are going to add two more thing called 401 authorized, unauthorized. We're going to add two more things. One is the 401 unauthorized and 403 forbidden. Okay, what is forbidden in 401? 401, if you don't have the token, and 403 is you have a token, you don't have that required scope to access a particular method, so you're not allowed to access that. That's when you will get 403. We will take a look at when we finish configuring our Angular application. Okay, so you will now understand what is 40. So now you will understand what is 401, 403. Okay, we will see all these things lively once we're done with the SPA application. All right, so I'm verifying this is all good. Let's open up our second application, which is our Angular application. Okay, so now you see this 401, we configured it. We are able to now see instead of undocumented, properly it is coming as 401. Okay, even if you try to execute the product, it is going to give us the same problem, meaning the same kind of authentication thing. So let's click on this and let's take a look what we get. All right, let's provide some number quickly, which is not correct. 2. All right, clicked. Okay, we got 401. Good, this is expected only. Okay, so now our web API is actually protected. Now I have opened up the Angular application. See, Angular application has couple of configuration. All these configuration has been already provided by the Microsoft Azure Active Directory B2C team. What you need to do here is come to this authconfig.ts from the code that I'm providing. Okay, you need to just replace this authority domain. Okay, the authority domain is the domain, the active directory domain name that you created, right? That one. And here B2C policy, these three things has to match. And under authority, you see this, all the authorities is matching with sign up, sign in, profile edit, password edit, like line number 40. All those things you need to provide. Okay, just copy paste. And one more important thing is this client ID. Client ID has been taken from the ASPI application that we registered. If you go to this application that we registered, we need to now go to our Angular application and take this client ID, also called as application ID. So copy this, which ends with E7E. Okay, I'm sure you see E7E. So I copy pasted this and then come to this last section where you provide the scopes. See, there are 4 scopes. I have requesting all the 4 scopes to be added here. An endpoint, it is pointing to our locally running web API endpoint. And if you are pointing it to a deployed version, then the deployed server URL will come here. Don't forget this is important. I was scratching my head as well for some time. So this endpoint, the scopes, and then the previously configured couple of sections has to be replaced with your values. This is all self-descriptive. Okay, so don't worry, you can read it and find it. If you have any questions, you can always ask me in the comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up these localhost 4200. See, as soon as it opened up, right, it figured out that I'm not authenticated and it is asking me to log in. So since in the user flow I already created, right, I'm logging it with my details. Now the authentication is successful. I'm able to go to my page. It's taking some time to load. Okay, this is all first time. See, now the details started loading, and if you click on the outgoing API, you see this bearer token, bearer followed by the encrypted token. If I copy this and go to this jwt.io, this is what I was trying to show you in the user flow. Basically, when you provide this, see this decrypted content is coming to the right side. Here, whatever we collected in the user section, right, from our user attributes, they are all coming from the claims, because we checked a tick mark that okay, these information needs to be in the claims. That's why these claims are coming. See, basically these are all key value pairs. And another one important thing is scope, SCP. The scopes that we requested here, right, you see this 4 scopes, that is what is coming there. Okay, you see this. Now if I change this, right, I'm requesting some scope which is not present, and if I try to reload, what will happen? I will get a 403. You know why? Category controller rejected, because right now the authentication doesn't have the scope called categories.read, because we just changed it in our Angular application, right? That's why we are authenticated, we don't get 401, but we are not authorized, we get the forbidden error, which is 403. See, once this happens, a few data didn't come, so our application broke. Okay, so that was the reason. So that's the difference between 401 and 403. Okay, so if you change this, right, so this is what has been read. Okay, so based on this only we are getting 403. And let me show you by copying this content into this web token, and you can see now under the SCP, see, categories are not present. Because category scopes are not present, obviously our category controller is expecting such scope and it will reject it. Okay, so that's why it's rejected. Now let's undo these two things, and meaning categories.read and write will be present in the scope. And if I run this application, everything should go smooth, and see, categories now returned all the categories and our application is back. We have got all the details. We are able to show these information, and if you want to try one more time, just copy this bearer token and see. I'm going to do this now. You see this 4 scopes have started coming. So 4 scopes are being sent as the scope in the API request, and our API is happy to serve the request. Okay, so you can click on this edit profile, which will bring up whatever you saw. Like I said, because you're already authenticated, it is directly showing you what you can edit on the screen. Only the display name can be edited for now because of my configuration, so that is showing up that, right? And if you log out, and what it will do is it will again bring up the screen, but this time you can say forgot password. See, this forgot password would have not worked if you don't follow what I said in the second clip. Okay, so this will work only when you configure that self reset checkbox in the sign up sign in section. Okay, so don't forget that, and if you get any error, let me know. I'll always help there to help you. All right, now just a quick thing. Okay, so all what you need to be worried is when you receive this application code from the GitHub, right, in a separate branch, there'll be couple of files will be affected, like auth config, header, couple of other files will be affected. They're all pre-configured. I literally got that from Microsoft actually. Okay, so that's, as I said, there's nothing to hide with you guys. Okay, so there are plenty of source outside, meaning you just need to know how to do it in Azure Portal. I'm actually a Azure certified developer. I've completed AZ204. I'm planning to show you more and more videos in Azure. Okay, so this one, like I said, you just have these two applications ready. Just replace the client ID and other couple of configurations properly. Your application should start working as it is. Okay, so you don't need to worry about anything else. I will provide a lot of links in this code itself. You can always refer, go there and read more about it, and I'm happy to help you if you have any questions. Okay, now in the next couple of videos I'll show you how to configure your identity provider like Google, Twitter, Facebook, and how do you put that here, so that Google thing also will come up as an option for the users to log in with their Gmail address. Okay, alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. This 6 videos will conclude the complete Azure AD B2C authentication and authorization flow for our web API and Angular single page application. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section, and I will see you soon with another video. Thank you. Thanks for watching. If you like my video, don't forget to subscribe my channel, like it, share it, comment it, and never forget to click on the bell icon.